This time we are taking you to Japan, not the Japan of bullet trains and bright Tokyo lights. We are going to a tiny town called Tosu on the southern island of Kyushu in 1957, to a place the maps did not even bother to mark, a slum built on land that did not officially exist. Picture this: you are a little boy living in a shack, not a house, shack, built by hand on a patch of unregistered land, surrounded by dozens of other makeshift homes. There is no proper address. The smell of pigs fills the air because your dad raises them. Your family is poor, really poor. But it gets harder because you are not just poor, you are Korean. Your family came from Korea generations ago. But in Japan, that makes you an outsider. To survive, your family hides behind a fake Japanese name, Yasumoto. You pretend to be Japanese just to be left alone. And it does not work. The hiding does not protect you. At school, Japanese kids throw stones at you. Actual stones because of where your family comes from. Not insults, not dirty looks, rocks. You go home with cuts and bruises, a little boy being told by an entire country, "You do not belong here, you will never belong here, you are less than us." Imagine carrying that every single day as a child. Most kids would shrink. Most kids would believe it, but not this boy. Something inside him refuses to accept that his birth decides his future. When he is just 16, he reads a book by the man who brought McDonald's to Japan. And he is so inspired, he tracks the man down and begs for a meeting. The man tells him, "Forget the old industries, study computers. That is where the future is." That 16-year-old listened to every word. And he made a decision that would terrify most adults. He was going to leave Japan, leave his family, leave everything he knew, and move to America all by himself to chase a future nobody around him could even imagine. His name is Masayoshi Son, and he had 86,400 seconds every day to go from a stone-pelted boy in a slum to one of the most powerful investors the world has ever seen. This is 86,400 Stories, episode 27, The Man Who Bet on the Future. In America, Masayoshi went wild, in the best way. At his high school in California, he walked in, took some tests, and skipped 2 whole grades in less than a week. Then he got into the University of California, Berkeley, one of the best universities on earth. But he did not just study. He set himself a rule that sounds insane. He would invent one new thing every single day. He carried a notebook everywhere and forced his brain to create one idea a day. No excuses. And one of those ideas changed his life. He invented a small electronic translator, a device that could turn one language into another. He built a team of professors to help him make it real. Then he took it to the electronics giant shop, and they bought it. Masayoshi Son made his first $1 million while he was still a university student, a poor Korean kid from a Japanese slum, a millionaire before he even graduated. He also imported Space Invaders and Pac-Man arcade machines from Japan and put them in American bars and restaurants, making even more money. The hustle never stopped. In 1981, he went back to Japan and started a company. He called it SoftBank, a company built to sell computer software at a time when most people in Japan did not even own a computer. And on the very first day, in a tiny office, he climbed on top of a wooden apple crate, looked down at his 2 part-time employees, and made the boldest promise you have ever heard. He said, "One day this company will count its money in trillions of yen. We will be number 1. 2 employees, an apple crate, and he is talking about trillions." They thought he was crazy. Both of them quit not long after. Now here is where the trap kicks in. Right as SoftBank was taking off, Masayoshi got sick, seriously sick. He was diagnosed with a liver disease, and doctors told him he might only have a few years to live. He spent years in and out of hospital. That fear of dying became his silent grind, and instead of breaking him, it made him hungrier than ever to do something massive with the time he had left. Masayoshi beat the illness, and when he came back, he did not think small. He thought bigger than anyone around him. He looked at the world in the late 1990s and saw something most people could not see yet. The internet was about to change everything. So he did not just build one company. He started buying pieces of hundreds of internet companies. He poured money into the future like a man possessed. In 1995, he met two young guys in California building a strange new website almost nobody had heard of. It was called Yahoo, one of the very first ways for people to find things on the internet. Most investors did not understand it. Masayoshi did. He invested over $100 million. People said he was reckless, throwing money at a fad. Instead, it made him a fortune and helped build the modern internet. But the moment that made him a legend happened in the year 2000. In China, he sat down with a skinny, unknown English teacher named Jack Ma, who was building an online marketplace called Alibaba. Jack Ma had no business plan, no profits, no real product yet. Most investors would have laughed and walked out. But after just 6 minutes of talking, Masayoshi Son made his decision. He looked at this unknown teacher and said, yes. He later explained why in the most unusual way. He said, Jack Ma had strong, shining eyes. That is it. No spreadsheets, no business plan. He did not invest in the company. He invested in the human being sitting across the table from him. He put $20 million into a company that barely existed. That was the ultimate vision. That $20 million bet, made in 6 minutes, based on a man's eyes, would one day be worth over $70 billion. It is still one of the greatest investments in the entire history of business. By early 2000, Masayoshi Son looked completely unstoppable. The internet was booming and his bets were paying off beyond anyone's wildest dreams. His personal wealth was rising by $10 billion a week. Let that sink in. 10 billion every 7 days. And then, for 3 incredible days, he became the single richest man on the entire planet. Richer than Bill Gates himself. A Korean boy from a Japanese slum, sitting at the very top of the whole world. And then the sky fell. In 2000, the dot-com bubble burst. All those internet companies he had bet on came crashing down at once. SoftBank's stock dropped 75% in 2 months. By the end of the year, it had lost 93% of its value. Masayoshi Son lost around $70 billion. Read that again. 70 billion. It is still the greatest financial loss any single human being has ever suffered in history. His company almost went completely bankrupt. Think about that fall. One moment, richer than Bill Gates. The next, watching $70 billion vanish. Most people would never recover from that. Most people would quit, hide, and never be heard from again. But Masayoshi Son said something incredible. He said,
This strategy isn't just about growth, it's about resilience.
And he refused
We
to give up.
execute this, and the future
That was
is ours.
the ultimate boss move. Instead of selling everything in a panic, he held on to his Alibaba shares, the ones that would later be worth billions. He rebuilt SoftBank from the ashes, piece by piece. He bought a struggling phone company in Japan that everyone had written off, and turned it into a giant by being the very first to bring the iPhone to the entire country. Slowly, painfully, brick by brick, he clawed his way all the way back to the top of the mountain. Then in 2017, he did the absolutely unthinkable. He raised the biggest investment fund the world had ever seen, the Vision Fund, worth $100 billion. To do it, he sat down with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia and convinced him to put in $45 billion in a single 45-minute conversation. $45 billion in 45 minutes. That is $1 billion a minute. He looked the prince in the eye and called it a $1 trillion gift. From a stone-pelted boy in a muddy slum, to a millionaire student, to the richest man in the world, to losing $70 billion, to running the single biggest technology fund on the entire planet, Masayoshi's son became the ultimate comeback story the business world had ever seen. So now I have to ask you something. What is your excuse? Masayoshi Son was born in a slum on land that did not officially exist. He was Korean in a country that treated him like dirt. Kids threw stones at him for his blood. He nearly died from a liver disease in his 20s, and he lost $70 billion in a single crash, the biggest loss in human history. And he came back to build a $100 billion fund and bet on the future of the entire planet. That is true power, not the kind that never falls. Anyone can look strong when things are easy. True power is the kind that gets knocked down harder than any human being in history, loses $70 billion, and still finds the strength to stand back up, dust itself off, and start climbing all over again. The trap you are sitting in right now, the rejection, the loss, the failure, the people who throw stones at your dreams the same way they threw real stones at a little boy in Japan, that is not the end of your story. Remember, Masayoshi Son lost more money than any single human being in history and came back stronger than ever. So whatever you have lost, whatever has been taken from you, it is not your ending. It is your setup for the greatest comeback of your life. He did all of it inside the same 86,400 seconds you and I get every single morning. Same clock, same hours, different choices. Take the pain of the trap and turn it into fuel for your comeback. Master the hustle by betting on the future before everyone else sees it. And fight for the ultimate flex, the life where you get knocked down 100 times and stand up 101. The pen is in your hands, and possibility has no postcode. If this story moved you, smash that subscribe button right now. Hit the bell so you never miss an episode. Share this with someone who has been knocked down and needs to get back up, and drop a comment. Tell me, what is your comeback going to be? See you in the next account. This has been 86,400 Stories, hosted by Mayo. Every second, there is a story.